Welcome everybody to Cafecito Power Hour. This is today's Wednesday, May 3rd. We are excited for today because a couple things we're going to discuss. But I'm so excited to welcome you all. We're going to have an amazing conversation with Karen Velez Esquire, attorney Karen Velez. And we're going to talk about some important things, especially if you're considering hiring or vetting an attorney. There are some things that I didn't know when she mentioned it to me. So we're going to dive into that. Before we get started, I want to mention a couple things on the agenda. One, we had an amazing event last night with Maxine Serrano, who held a workshop for us at United Latinas, Mastering the Art of Building Your Network. We got so much great positive feedback from that. We will have the replay on our YouTube channel. And then by next week, we will. Upcoming events, May 16th, we'll have our next event with Dulce Orozco, who's going to be talking about transforming the fear of failure or the fear of success. You probably have both, right? So that's going to be a great conversation. And then on May 25th, we have our next Latina leadership meeting. Make sure you are registered for that. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. And I want to invite all of you to become members of United Latinas because we are launching some pretty dope things in the next couple weeks. Well, we already launched it, but we're going to start releasing it over to the public. And I'll talk about that more as we go through this. But if you guys are looking to be a speaker, be a thought leader, get leadership skills, business skills, I definitely invite you to be part of the United Latinas family. But all of that to say that I'm so excited to introduce today's guest because I love Karen. I love her for so many reasons besides her spice. Because I think that your energy is exactly so beautiful. And I want you to do a full introduction on you, but we'll talk more about what I love so deeply about why you're so powerful energy that I admire so much. But definitely want an introduction from you, Karen. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me for Cafecito. Hopefully everyone has their tea or coffee. I'm happy, proud to be here, and will always show up for United Latinas no matter how busy I am. I am attorney Karen Velez. I've been an attorney for over 17 years in South Florida. Specifically, my office is located in Boca Raton. I'm reaching you today from my office. We're going to talk about some good stuff, what to do, how to vet an attorney if you're facing a legal battle. A little bit about me. So I've been an attorney for 17 years. My practice is predominantly family law. So divorces, child custody, child support, paternity, prenups are very, very popular in the last couple of years and necessary, 100%. Postnups, things like that. And then also some criminal law. So I began my legal career as a public defender. I believe that service is very important, especially in our community, especially for Latinos. I'm a Spanish speaker. I was born and raised in the Bronx. I've been in South Florida now for over 25 years, but I was raised in New York, and I believe in giving back, and specifically to our people. And when I became an attorney, I immediately became a public defender to help the poor people in our community. And I was a Spanish speaker. I specifically catered to Spanish speaking only clients, which meant a large immigrant population. But I believe in everyone having excellent representation. I provide that, and the Velez Law Firm has been. I think we're starting our 5th year. But the Velez Law Firm is here for you. If anyone's in South Florida and needs legal counsel, absolutely reach out to me. I'm going to go through some things that you can do if you're facing a legal battle, not just a divorce, but any legal battle, whether it's a business dispute, whether it's a trademark issue, whatever it is, some steps that you can take, some things that you can do to vet your lawyer and kind of protect yourself and know what to ask. Because the truth is, for many people, when they're in a courtroom or facing a lawsuit or filing a lawsuit or part of any litigation, it's literally the first time that they're going through a legal battle, and it's extremely stressful. So would you like me to keep going?
Go ahead.
Go right into my steps. Okay. So obviously anyone that has, faced a legal battle, whether it's something as, not that I want to minimize it, but as small claims or, as serious as a divorce, it's hard to know what to ask. And sometimes you don't want to feel you're intimidated. You don't know what to ask. So I'm going to give you like 5 very good starting points to vet your lawyer. So number 1, ask your attorney, and you can write this down, whatever you choose, but ask your attorney, how often do you appear in the courthouse or before the judge that my case will be heard in? Why? Because you want the attorney that handles your case to regularly practice in the courtroom, in the courthouse where your case is being heard. You don't want an out-of-towner. This is a time where, a home court advantage, it's a real thing, is important. It is important that your attorney is regularly, routinely appearing in the courthouse where your case will be heard, where a judge is going to hear the facts of your case.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Do you do that when you're on the phone, when you first okay, because most people are just Googling attorney for whatever reason.
Yep.
And then you're booking a call. So you do this during that pre-interview process with them.
Correct. So absolutely go online, absolutely do search engines. But also keep in mind that sometimes when you have a practice where a firm's been in business 15, 20 years, they might have like 300, reviews and average a 4 or 5 or whatever. But the truth is, read them and see. And the things you're looking for are, one, for example, if your case is going to be heard in one county, you don't want a lawyer that's practicing for this particular tip, but you don't want a lawyer that's practicing mostly in another county. And so that they're a stranger to the divisional procedures, to how the judge wants things. So for example, if I handle a case in Miami, you don't have to have your evidence in, 5 days in advance. In Palm Beach County, I'll often have to courier it to the judge. The judge wants a hard copy. Sure, it's online, sure, it's uploaded, but each courthouse, each county has their own home court, expectations and rules, if you will. So yes, these are questions you ask, right off the bat when you're calling the attorney and scheduling, either speaking to them later. So for example, I do sometimes FaceTime. During COVID, obviously, I stopped meeting with people 90% of the time, and I've kind of kept that. So I do phone interviews. I happen to do, there's 2 schools of thought on this. I happen to do and offer free consultations. I limit them to 15 to 20 minutes. And this is when you, as a potential client needing to hire a lawyer, this is when you ask this question. So the first is, how often do you appear in the courthouse or before the judge where my case will be heard? Number 2, you're going to ask the lawyer to kind of talk a bit about the steps or the process in your case. For example, if it's a personal injury case, a business litigation, or as in my practice, family law, mediation is often required. So you're going to ask things like, can you walk me through the process? What does this look like, this case? And is mediation or arbitration required? And part of the reason you're asking this is obviously you want to know the process, right? You don't know. You're a legal novice. You're not a lawyer. But also because you want to see how they answer it. Are they being honest? Are they being upfront? Are they listening? Are they paying attention? So all of these are, starting points. They're not the be all and end all, but this is good advice, good tips for starting the conversation and showing the lawyer that just like they're vetting you, because I vet my clients, you're vetting them. You're not just going to go with them because your neighbor or best friend or Google said, hire the Velez law firm. You're doing your homework, as you should. Sandra, any pointers or questions there? Otherwise, I'll move on.
Yes.
Questions. Sorry.
Yes. What do you look for when you're vetting the client? What is it that you want that, what do we need to come prepared with? How do we need to be and approach that situation?
So this is a very subjective, personal response. Obviously, I personally am looking for, I'm at the point in my life, in my career, where I'm looking to make sure that the client is not toxic, is not unrealistic. Why? If the person says certain things that might be red flags, that's not a client that's ever going to be satisfied, ever going to be happy. And in being honest with them, that person is just never going to be happy. So what do I look for? I look for someone that is reasonable, is listening to the advice and the tips that I'm giving. When I ask them a question, they answer it straightforward. So for example, in family law, there has to be disclosure of finances. So if I say, for example, you're going to have to, as part of your divorce, disclose your financial documents and statements, including, years of taxes, about what did you report as your income in 2022 or 2021. And the person either A, has no idea, or gives me a number. For example, they say, in 2022, my husband and I reported an income together, combined jointly, of, $76,000, or, whatever it is, right? Those kinds of things. If they don't know, if they can't answer, or they're hesitating, well, I'm going to have to be pulling teeth and emailing and constantly checking in with that person to get the information. And there's deadlines that attorneys must follow. So I don't like to chase the client. So I'm looking for honest, straightforward responses, no toxicity, no scorched earth. I don't need to do scorched earth, burn him down or burn her down or any of that. And just a level of understanding and back and forth that works. So answering a question, not evading, things like that. And there's a whole host of other things I look for, but those are the main ones. And definitely avoiding red flags and toxic clients is something I'm doing when I'm speaking with my clients as much as they should be doing. I'm definitely vetting my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not even just for attorneys, right? I think we need to do that. We do that because I do that as well in my business. I think we need to be very specific about what we're looking for. So I love that you shared that, because it allows people to really perceive that in their own situation. So true. I love it. What's
The third one is, so number 3 is a 2-part question that you're asking. So you're going to ask the lawyer, when was the last time you went to trial, and what happened? And here's why it's important. Very few cases go to trial. And there's a whole host of reasons why some cases should never go to trial, right? Quite frankly, a small percentage go to trial. But in the event that your case doesn't resolve and your case isn't something that you can settle, whether at mediation, at arbitration, pre-trial, you want to know that that lawyer is going to be able to go the distance and try that case if necessary. And it may not be, but knowledge is great. Confidence is great. At the end of the day, you want to know that if you go to court, that attorney has what it takes to get you over the finish line and try the case. And quite frankly, many times some of the excellent lawyers are never in trial because they're excellent. Everyone knows their reputation. They're not afraid of court. But I'm going to give you an example that applies. And this happened to me very recently. And I'm actually preparing for another case. So here's my example on that. There's a small local politician who, everyone thinks is a great lawyer, and has a lot of business, well known. And the truth is, I guess my flex is, I know this lawyer is never going to go to trial. He's a big talker, and I know every time I speak to him, he's going to immediately belittle me, talk down to me, sometimes shout at me. He's very big on, see you in court. Now I know I will never see this man in court because he's not going to court. So here's where that comes into play. Knowing that, I know that I can look at my client and be like, and my client knows, we know, because I've discussed, because my client, a very smart man, very educated, multiple degrees, when he did his homework, he was like, what can you tell me about opposing counsel? And there won't always be opposing counsel on the case yet, because sometimes, right, you're the first one litigating and suing. But when there is, your lawyer should be able to tell you. And so I knew, like, word on the street, I've only had one other case with him, and it did resolve before trial. But even though he's a local politician, he's not going to trial. And the fact that I go to court and trial all the time, and I love it if necessary, he's going to know. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. So this is where it becomes important to know your lawyer and to know if they can go to the distance with you. Even if you're not going to go to trial, can they know your goals and reach them? Or in the alternative, try your case if there's an unreasonable mind on the other side, if the other side is, asking for too much, wants blood from a stone. Can that lawyer try your case and go the distance with you? Thoughts on this, Sandra?
I love it. I mean, I mean, just even hearing you talk about it, I'm like, I want her. If I have like anything going on, because I could sense the passion, right? And I think that when you believe and know what it is that you do, I think that how you articulated that so very well is a reminder to all of us. You want somebody that's on your side, that's going to go the distance for you, that's going to do what it takes to help you in that situation. And sometimes you don't build that type of rapport with attorneys. It's very hard to do that sometimes. I've definitely, had, in previous a lot, moments, where I've had to discuss even just documents with an attorney, and they're very, you're an item, next kind of thing. And some people treat you like that, and some treat you like, okay, well, what are we trying to accomplish here? So I love that you shared that. No, just wanted to bring that up.
It's very, very important. And I think that's going to be the last one I talk about as well, like your gut check and your rapport. So we're up to 4 by my count, I think. And it's kind of been touched on along the way. And it's, what do you know about opposing counsel or the other side? So in a personal injury case, your personal injury lawyer should know how State Farm, how Allstate, how these insurance companies are going to respond. Will they lowball? Are their attorneys overworked and underpaid? Are you just a number to the other side? So 4 is kind of like part of 3, but 3 was more about, can that attorney go the distance? 4 is, you're asking your attorney, what do you know about the other side? Give me the scoop on, opposing counsel. How will they do this? Are they going to drag it out? Will they bury me in documents that will cost thousands of dollars for you to review? Will they avoid and just stall? These kinds of things. What do you know? So that's what you're asking for a question for. You're asking your lawyer to identify characteristics or things that they know about the other side. Sandra, otherwise I go to the next one.
No, I mean, like, this is what, you're ready to go to the next one, or you got another?
No, tell me. No, you're
yeah, no, I think these are great vetting questions. Like, we don't, sometimes we're like, well, this is my issue. We forget to ask all of what you just shared, right? Because we're just like, this is my problem. What do I do? Versus, wait, can you do this? Can you fulfill this for me? How do you react in these circumstances? What happens when this happens? And we don't know all those scenarios. So I love this content because it's so invaluable for people to really understand that you need to have these conversations with an attorney, because otherwise you don't know who you can end up with, right?
Exactly. And you don't know that your goals align with them. If your goal is to resolve before trial, and you have someone that's going to call and belittle or insult opposing counsel, like, that's not a good fit for you. If your goal is, for example, my spouse, she's a good person and she's their mother, I just want 50-50. I want to make sure I get to see the children, because I'm the man, that I'm not losing out. Absolutely. So your priority is 50-50 co-parenting. I love it. I write it down. Make sure that the attorney is listening, nodding, and with you. And if they're like, oh no, like the man never, not a good fit for you. You're listening for these things as you're making your request. Or the opposite. I had a woman I represented years ago who was severely abused, meaning like on Christmas, she was so beat up that she had to cover herself. So Christmas in South Florida, as you know, is often quite hot, although it's a beautiful month. But she was in a turtleneck from head to, like, he dragged her through the house. And in that instance, we want supervised time sharing. So again, does your goal on your case align with what that lawyer sees for what should happen? And so the response and the way you handle those cases is very different, right? The woman that was the victim of domestic violence and sexual abuse, that woman, I'm writing, a 10, 15 page motion to make it clear to the judge, like, the visitation needs to be with a third party or drop off at the police station or whatever is necessary, as opposed to my client that's like, I'm a businessman and I love my children and I'm sad that the marriage is ending, but I need to see my kids just as much as my wife. This is devastating for all of us, and kids need their father. So the goals are different. So that becomes very relevant as well.
Yeah. Wow. That's like great information. Do you ever have a conversation with the opposing spouse, or you don't need to because you do? Okay.
So no. Okay. So it depends. Are they pro se, meaning representing themselves? And so I have cases like that. I personally do not. I put everything in writing so that they can never say attorney Karen Velez called me and intimidated me or raised her voice at me or, insisted I had to sign the paperwork, nothing like that. So my communications are in writing, or my assistant will, again, in writing, email and say, for example, we're going to schedule mediation and we're looking at the end of May to the end of June, what works for you. So everything in writing. So I don't reach out to unrepresented people on their cases. If they have an attorney, I reach out and I try and schedule settlement conferences with attorneys, not just cold call. Email, for example, next week, are you available these days? I try and schedule it so that we can have an intelligent conversation. And keep in mind, some lawyers never want to speak to the other side, or they don't know their case, so they're not going to. And so this is like the main one that literally covers all the others and you touched on it before, it's a gut check. When you speak to the lawyer, you're asking whatever of these questions that you're asking that I've laid out for you, are they actually listening? You want a lawyer that is responding to your questions, but also because you don't know what you don't know, you want a lawyer where you recognize that lawyer has ideas. That lawyer is not only knowledgeable and experienced and exudes confidence, but there should be all of that with a healthy or large dose of honesty, empathy, so that if you're literally going through a horrific situation, that lawyer, understands and can offer, some tips and really help you navigate the process. So that last tip is absolutely ask all these questions and then follow your gut. Do you like the rapport? Do you like their answers? Do you like their style? My style might be too bold for some people. It might not be aggressive enough for others. So the last one is your gut check. What are they doing? How are they responding? Are they listening? That kind of stuff.
I love that. I love that. And then we were talking about this, doing this live, we mentioned a little bit about negotiations. Like you mentioned, how you can negotiate with an attorney. And I don't think many of us knew that specifically or really considered that, but would love to hear, how do we go about that and when we should do that, right? Some things are they are what they are. And then other times, and I don't know what those times are. So would love to hear from you, like your thoughts on that process. How do we have the financial conversation with an attorney? Because it's often what prohibits some people from initially just reaching out to an attorney. They're like, oh, it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't think people, really understand that fully.
So we know from life that financial discussions and negotiations are tough across the board, not just in hiring legal counsel, right?
Yep.
Some spouses and couples right now, if you ask one of them, what do your finances look like? Give me a snapshot. They have no idea, and they certainly can't verbalize or talk about it. So I think be very frank. You just ask, what are we talking about here? Ballpark. How much is this going to cost me? About. And then just listen to what the lawyer is saying. If they're like, well, my last case, cost this much, or if it's a contingency, oh, you don't pay anything right now until I collect. And, and I expect to collect based on your injuries, $400,000 or $40,000, whatever it might be. Just have the discussion. What percentage are you seeking? How much will this cost me? And so in family law, what you have is you don't have a definitive number. You have a neighborhood, a territory, if you will. Why? Because you don't know what opposing counsel is going to do. So if you're having to go to court, just ask the judge to make the other side comply with sending over basic documents. If you're having to go to court all the time, that's expensive. Going to court is expensive. Emailing is expensive. And so oftentimes I'll say to the client, well, what's your spouse like? Do you think that your spouse is going to fight? Do you think that your spouse, for example, if they're self-employed? Do you think that he's hiding income? Do you, these kinds of things? And then you can prepare them and say, here's how you address that. Here's how you do that. But yes, how do you handle financial discussions? Frankly, you just say, what are we talking about here? Ballpark, how much is this going to cost me? And then listen. And then, so one negotiating thing that I would say, so for example, I do sometimes sliding scale. I mean, I've even done pro bono. I'm not in a position where I can do any more pro bono this year. But the point is that there are lawyers that can help you. And if that lawyer is not the one for financial reasons, for whatever reason, there's legal aid that you can contact. There's your local bar association that you can contact. So for example, I'm in Palm Beach County, you could contact the Palm Beach County Bar Association and say, are there any attorneys that are taking cases pro bono? Or are there any attorneys that are taking cases, maybe low bono, meaning not free, but I could pay, X, Y, and Z. I can pay 2,000 now, 2,000 later. I don't know exactly the amount, but the point is there are avenues if that particular attorney is going to be too expensive for your wallet.
Yeah. Oh my God. Those are great. I didn't even, and that's the truth, right? It's the matter of factness. Like, listen, let's be real. I mean, when you're coming into a situation like that, you want to know what more or less what to expect. And those are great questions. How will the other side respond? Are they going to push us to court or to be filling out a million pieces of documents and all that good stuff? So not good stuff. That important stuff. Yeah, that's but it's true, right? Those are amazing questions. I know that they provided a lot of value for those that are listening in and watching the replay for sure. I know we're getting close to time, but I want you to share a little bit, not just your closing statement, but share anything that you want to share that's left that you feel like, listen, I need to make sure that we mention these things for sure.
Okay, so before I forget, my social media person will kill me if I don't at least show you my business card so that people can screenshot it or see it. I'm Karen Velez with the Velez Law Firm. There's my number. What would I say as a as a lawyer, but personally, is stick together as a community. We have such power, and I would encourage everyone on this call, on here live or listening to this later on, wherever it is, to get involved in the community, help our people. We are stronger together. And I guess that's my resounding message. We are stronger together. We can help each other. There are people across every profession. When I've watched United Latinas in finance, in pharmaceuticals, in sales, CEOs. So, let's work together and let's continue to network and build and get elected, run for office, whether you want to be on the PTA. But if you're a CEO in finance, if you just keep helping one another and let's pull each other up and continue to open doors, windows, or invite our friends and colleagues, other Latinas, to sit at the table with us.
Yeah. And you mentioned something I want to talk about for just a minute.
Okay.
And that's the fact that you ran for circuit court judge. And I think it's important to mention that because even though you didn't win, you got really a large amount of voters who backed you, which is profound. And it's important to mention because that was an amazing win, Karen. That was an amazing win because you put in a lot of effort. And I think it's important for all of us to really understand when you have belief in something that needs to change, taking the action towards changing it. And you bravely took that challenge on and were a badass. And I think that was so important. And, whether you choose to run again in the future, the fact that you did it is inspirational to so many Latinas and non-Latinas that are considering or even the possibility of, can I do this? Because we do need to make change in those positions. And, that's why a lot of attorneys typically run for office or in that field because you guys know law, what's going on, and you're very adamant about change and what needs to be changed. And so I just wanted to give you your flowers for that because I thought that was, I love you, all period. But I think that is somebody that took on a challenge and said, you know what, this is going to be scary. It's going to cost a lot of money and I'm going to have to be put in all my time, maybe see my family a little bit less. But I'm going to do it because I believe in the mission of challenging the status quo. And you did that. And I just thought I admire you so much for that. And I hope and I know you will inspire others, and hopefully we can capture that story one day and put it somewhere. Because
Absolutely. So thank you for my flowers and for that. I encourage everyone to get involved locally in their community. I ran for judge. Some of you may not know the stats, but less than 2% of lawyers are Hispanic, female, Latinas. Even a smaller amount are their own boss. They're a firm owner successfully for years. And representation matters, especially in our court system. I think that years ago, when I used to talk to people and say, like, we need Hispanics on the bench, maybe they weren't paying attention. But because of Supreme Court decisions, because there's been so much change in laws in the last few years, people are paying attention and they realize, oh, shoot, judges matter. Yes, they have so much power over you, your body, your family, your property, your home, all of it. And so I did. I thought the bench should look like me, sound like me, be experienced and excellent like me. And I did run. It was amazing. I got, close to 90,000 votes. It was phenomenal. A million doors opened. And Sandra and I have spoken about this off camera. Many more doors and opportunities and tables became available to me. And so I didn't win, but I won. And in other ways as well, there is a recognition locally that we need Hispanics on the bench. And I know we're running out of time. I'm always mindful of people's time, but thank you to speaking to that, very important thing. Run for office, people, in in your community, in whatever capacity you feel is important. The need is there. Representation matters. Our voice, our bodies, our thoughts, our experience matters.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for that, Karen. It's been an amazing conversation to do on this live stream. Guys, if you are not currently part of United Latinas, definitely consider being part and joining our efforts. We already launched Latina Speakers Club. So if you are a speaker looking to speak, get on a stage, get more practice speaking. We have launched Latina Speakers Club, which you can join by going to United Latinas /membership and get on stages and express your voice that we so long to hear. So thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, everybody that's been tuning in. And I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your day. Hope you joined us. Leave some notes.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.